Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on my program. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you are joining me from any part of the world, I thank you very much for your contributions on this channel. Please kindly subscribe if you have not subscribed, and also click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. In this channel, I bring information to your doorstep. I bring news from all channels, from every angle. Things that have to do about the world, things that have to do about Africa, more especially Nigeria. I bring it to your doorstep, some information that you ignore, some information that you cannot be able to come across. I look for them, I bring it to your doorstep for you to see. Every video you see on this channel is for educational purpose.
Mission rooms. Things are not going on well. This country must be rescued by all of us. Those of you who are keeping quiet, it will soon knock on your door. The press, I commend you, but at a point you were also intimidated and you never wanted to talk about it. I don't see, just yesterday, 15 people were killed in my own local government again. After the evil in Opoku local government, where about 16 people were killed. 15 were killed in Goa. I have stopped lamenting. Now, me, I have told everybody, whatever you have as weapons, bring it out. Those people are using AK47. Where can I get AK47? Go and find where you will get AK47, and if they come, kill them also. Nobody should be afraid. If any security man arrests you, I'm ready to go there and defend you. Benue people, rise up, shine your eyes. It is time, and we don't need to hide anything. If we allow them, they will continue. But please, let us rise up. This is the right time. We must fight for our right. Bandits have surrendered the entire country. People can't go to church.
Besides the glaring issues of insecurity, other concerns over the extremely high cost of living and prolonged ASU strike equally came up.
Those of you who take crumbs from the villa and defend the policies of this government, please go and tell Mr. President that Ortom said all is not well. People are crying. Industries are dead. Insecurity everywhere. No jobs. Our children are not going to school. In Benue State here, we have met our requirement with ASU. But because they have to sympathize with their brothers and sisters in other institutions, they have gone on sympathy strike with ASU. And today, for how many months, our children are outside. It's a big challenge. Everybody at the federal level, they are doing whatever they want. You saw what happened when they came to contest for presidency. NNPC are now remitting money to the federation account again in the name of fuel subsidy. Yet there is fuel scarcity everywhere. Where is the over 400 billion going every month? Where is the fuel subsidy? Where?
Public schools, because the case started in Lagos State, where pupils who were attending public schools were not allowed to dress in a manner that accords with the exercise of their faith. You know, so it shouldn't be a generic decision that will probably cause some kind of controversy nationally. You know, so I believe that the context of that judgment is limited to the issues before the court, to the extent that in public schools, where everybody is allowed to attend, you will not discriminate against people on the ground of the exercise of their faith. But Chamberlain, the exercise of that right is also must be weighed against the rights of others. For instance, maybe you opened a private school and it's your money that you deploy to open that school, and then you open it to people to attend. For instance, these private universities, maybe it's an Islamic school or a Christian school. You wouldn't take these judgments to, for instance, a private Christian school funded privately by the owners, and then insist to impose your own faith upon them on the basis of the Supreme Court judgment, or you go to an Islamic school, or you seek to impose your own Christian doctrine upon them based on the Supreme Court judgment. So I think that there's need for proper definition so that we don't cause undue controversy. But for my learned friend, I think he went there to make a statement, not as a lawyer.
So if he had a case listed and he was appearing for someone before the judges, can he not appear like that because he's trying to give the impression that he can, perhaps saying that the court is a public place?
Well, I think that it's for the court to give a proper interpretation as to whether he can appear. But as a member of the legal profession, we have our own dress code. We have our own rules guiding appearance in court. Because in the judgment of the Supreme Court, the case made by the people who took the case to the court is to the effect that there's no regulation in Lagos State in force on what should be worn in public schools by pupils who attend those schools. And so to that effect, there was nothing to discriminate against anybody who appeared in the exercise of their faith if it's required. But in the legal profession, just like in the journalistic profession, in the churches or other professions in the armed forces, there must be a regulation for appearances, for dresses, and if you violate that, you may have to face the internal procedure for discipline within those particular professions.
So if we hypothesize a bit, if the state had laws concerning dress code, would the case have appeared, or the judgment have appeared, or have been ruled differently on that particular matter?
I think that was the point made, because, our Constitution, the rights granted in the Constitution are not absolute. Section 45 of the Constitution allows the government, the National Assembly, and lawmakers to make laws to derogate from the rights granted under the Constitution. So I think the point that the Supreme Court was making is that there is no law made by the House of Assembly of Lagos State derogating from the rights to freedom of religion, freedom of expression, assuming the Lagos State government had made a regulation prescribing the kind of uniform to be worn in public schools, and then there is a violation, then, it will be justified to deny people attending those schools. So you must situate every judgment within the facts of that case. And I don't think the judgment of the Supreme Court is a blanket expression of taking dresses to public places anyhow. It was limited to the issue of the Lagos State circumstance, which did not have a law in place prescribing which uniform pupils should wear in secondary school. I don't think that would be a precedent for instance, a Christian to go to a mosque and say, because it's a mosque and a judgment of the Supreme Court, you will wear a cassock. Or for a Muslim to take a hijab and enter a church and insist on participating in the activities of the church. I don't think we should interpret it to that extent. And I think that it's important that the court should more or less stay away from religion. Nigeria cannot be described as a religious state. We are a secular state by virtue of Section 10 of our Constitution. So we need to be cautious because of the sentiments attached to religion generally in Nigeria.
And I think it's important to make that point because people watch and they might get conflicting signals, essentially. But since this is about the Lagos State issue, particularly, you're taking this case by case. So first, a student today, based on that judgment, can appear in school with the kind of dressing that we saw the lawyer in. Is that true? Is that correct?
I think that as of today, if Lagos State government is yet to make any law prescribing the kind of uniform to be worn by pupils who attend public schools, and I emphasize public school, the Supreme Court judgment is not applicable to private schools. So if there is no law, it's possible for Malane French Chief Omoebo, as he has threatened that his children will attend school in that regalia, it is possible for them to appear in that regalia in public schools if Lagos State is yet to make any law prescribing the kind of uniform to be worn by pupils attending his public schools. It's possible to appear in that regard, sir.
You know, so I see people perhaps trying to then extrapolate this, maybe even take this further. And the joke has been made that some employees might appear at work, you know, judging from that particular Supreme Court pronouncement and say, well, I have freedom of religion, you know, freedom of association to thought and all of that. And they can always have that Supreme Court judgment, at least to show the employer. So is that taking it too far as well? I know you have said, you know, the court should maybe stay away from religion, but clearly they have mixed so far, and we don't know how far this will go. So just to guide someone who might want to try that, is that the way to go, or are you calling for caution?
Absolutely, that's not the way to go. For instance, private companies have regulations on dress code for their members of staff. And if you go as a member of staff of that organization and you run contrary to the existing regulation on dressing, of course, it's a contract of employment. Your employment can be determined on that basis, and you will not have any remedy at all in law. And you cannot rely on the Supreme Court judgment to violate the contract you signed, willingly agreeing to abide by the codes of ethic of your company. So it cannot be a basis at all for people to claim to wear any dressing to appear anyhow. And I think, honestly, because I told you that I have, in the course of my engagement in this matter, also got to know that even the hijab itself, it's not supposed to be all manner of coverings. It's a particular way of exercise of faith by which female adherents of the Islamic faith are expected to cover their hair. And I think it should be moderately done, you know, so that it doesn't also elicit reaction from other people. So if you want to wear the hijab, for instance, especially in public institutions, it will be probably in exercise and demonstration of a moderate exercise of that faith by covering the hair. But when you do it in such excessive way, it may also provoke the kind of thing that the lawyer has done. So I think the useful guide is to be moderate in the exercise of the rights that is being granted by the Constitution.
Mr. Adegboro, I pick up on the first point you made, that the lawyer went there not as a lawyer, but as an individual making a statement. But right above that satirical attire was his lawyer's gown, and atop his head was the wig. You know, so that apart, then secondly, which should be the strongest lesson here? The first point that you made about the Supreme Court should be careful in making judgments, you know, by being sensitive to other people's rights besides a section of the population, or the fact that the Lagos state government hasn't made any law about how students should dress to school, hence perhaps it's a free-for-all. Your other pupils can decide what to wear to school. So which lesson should trump the other right now?
There are three things I would like to state. And it's that for the practitioners of faith, whether Islamic faith, traditionalists, or Christians, we do not set out to provoke embers of crisis in a nation. We need peace in the land for there to be development, for there to be growth. These schools are already in existence, especially the private schools. You know the nature of the schools you want to attend. For instance, let's say a university set up by missionaries. It was particularly set up for a purpose. And if you want to attend that school to benefit from the objective of the owners of the school, you can't use your own religious faith to disrupt their objective or planning. Otherwise, there will be a different motive to that exercise. But at the same time, when it relates to public institutions, the government has a duty to make laws to guide human conduct, because the confusion in this is placed purely at the doorstep of Lagos state government, which has refused to make laws regulating appearance of pupils in public schools. And I think now that the Supreme Court has delivered this judgment, I expected Lagos state government, the House of Assembly, and all the leaders of thought to meet together with the institutions, the religious organizations, and agree on specific modes of dressing that will accord with the rights of those who want to practice, but will not also offend on the rights of others who probably are not inclined in that regard. So there has to be a balancing. And for the court in particular, before I end on this, the Supreme Court is a policy court. When you give a decision, it is a final court. I believe that in the exercise of the decision in respect of this hijab thing, greater consultations could have come. When matters like that get to the Supreme Court, they ask for amicus. They invite people. You invite Christian people, you invite Islamic people, you invite traditionalists, you invite the Attorney General, you invite the MBA, because you are about to make a fundamental policy statement that will affect the nation. I believe that the Supreme Court ought to have given opportunities for other people, rather other than those who took the case to court, to make contributions before coming to that decision. And that's why you are seeing this kind of reactions. Because if everybody had been brought into the picture before coming to that decision, it will have been probably well guided, in terms of how to ensure that specific pronouncements are made that will not cause crisis or tension in the polity.
All right. Now, speaking about the rights of others, you're also aware of this Senator AK47 matter. Lots of surprise when the news broke, and still many trying to grapple or understand and process all of the information that is just coming through. But for the part that you have read and heard, yes, it's a legal matter largely. What do you think of it?
Well, Chamberlain is quite unfortunate. And I think we pray as parents never to be in this circumstance where the love to save our children may conflict, with laid down regulations and rules. And I think it's an eye-opener for all of us. It's about the circumstances of how we exist in our nation, Nigeria. That for you to undertake such important venture, you needed to be well guided legally to ensure that you follow due process. For instance, it's alleged, for instance, that the reason why the boy was asked, that's the donor, to come back was that his blood type did not match the blood type of the lady that was to be assisted. So which means that due diligence was not done. Because before you enter into such undertaking, at least the first thing is to ensure that the person that you are taking there is in him. And then if it is true that he's a minor, who is the guardian? Who is the parent? Who are the people who you consulted to be able to get their consent? Because a minor in law has no right to grant consent for such an undertaking. But this case is still in the realm of social media and newspaper publications. We've only heard from the Metropolitan Police. We have not had the case of the defendant. For instance, there's a document circulating online by which it is said that Senator AK47 informed the British Embassy in Nigeria as to the purpose for which the donor was being taken abroad. But that it would not exculpate him from complying with due process. For instance, if the donor is a minor, the fact that you inform the embassy will not discharge you from fulfilling the requirement of the law to get the consent of his parents or guardian in order to undertake such a venture. What are the medicals you have carried out? And I think it's a lesson also for our leaders. So many things we do in Nigeria and get away with, we can't practice it abroad. And that's what the point we make every time, that we can get this country moving if our leaders do things right. Because, a person in that capacity, given his status, he will do it in Nigeria and nothing will happen. So, but my sympathies goes to Senator AK47, having regard to the fact that he undertook this assignment as a way of rescuing, his daughter. But he has to do that with caution, so that in trying to rescue your daughter, you don't endanger the life of another person who is also a human being. You know, so I think that we should wait till July 7th when we hear his own defense before we'll be able to say this is what is actually the case.
Indeed, Mr. Digborua, as you rightly pointed out, the facts of the matter are still very sketchy, and there have been so many attempts to try and dig behind the scenes to see just what is happening. Emerging also that the boy in question, or the donor, would-be donor in question, was also said to have was not a match and was supposed to return to Nigeria, and as a result decided to seek asylum. Well, as you rightly pointed out, by July the 7th, we should be getting more information, maybe even as the day goes by, as to what exactly transpired in this particular matter. But let me quickly take you back to that Supreme Court judgment and the appearance of the lawyer in court, because some people say that, I mean, as you've also rightly pointed out, that judgment has implication for the country. And we currently know that in Kwara, there's still a tussle in that regard. And some people think that the Supreme Court judgment has settled it. From what you know as a lawyer, did the Supreme Court judgment also, because if it was given in respect to a judgment in Lagos, has it also settled the matter in Kwara?
I don't think so. I beg to disagree, because as lawyers, what we say is that every judgment is limited to the facts of that particular case that provoked the dispute. And in this particular case is that Lagos State public schools were said to be available for people to appear there, you know, in any dress that suits the exercise of their faith. The circumstance in Kwara is totally different. I understand that there are some missionary schools that were released to missionaries. And for instance, in one of the schools in Kwara, there is a church inside the compound. There is a school inside the compound. So people attend that school in order to have access to education. So in that circumstance, it's a delicate situation that is different from Lagos. For instance, if a church is going on, maybe weekly service, and then the school is also going on, and you see priests wearing their regalia, you see Islamic adherents wearing their hijab, you see Olokun people, you are desecrating the church because you actually knew that it was a church before you enrolled to be in that school. So I believe that the circumstance of Lagos State is totally different from that of Kwara, and that we may not apply the ratio of this case to that case. But I think the Kwara State government has since taken steps to engage all stakeholders towards a resolution of the issues, because there's no reason why religion should cause problem for us in a nation where we have no food, there's no electricity. I mean, I believe that it's our leaders who do these things as a means of trying to curry favor from the populace, probably for the purpose of electoral value.
Well, I was also going to point out that to some extent, I think Osun also had a bit of that particular issue, where we also saw children being dressed up. I mean, the very fact that children have now been involved in this, you know, also raises questions. I think as a result of the uniform dressing across all the schools in Osun, there were questions as to how, you know, people of certain faith should dress, and before you know what's happening, parents were dressed